So apparently, Clip Studio Paint really upset the community, and honestly, I never got into using the program, and this is one of the reasons why I didn't even bother. Hello, this is Cetria, Cetriya, and like you guys, I was pretty peeved when Photoshop decided to go monthly subscription, but kind of makes sense because just like you, when you were in middle school or high school, you just couldn't afford the full tools. And maybe you were not as fortunate as being in a high school that happened to license the program, or where I am at currently, I'm in a job that licensed the program. Um, but Adobe Creative Cloud is very much different than every other person out there. So, how should I start this? I never got into using Clip Studio Paint because I attempted two other programs before Clip Studio Paint was a thing, and that was Paint Tool Sci, which I still enjoyed at the time. And I know Corel Draw and Corel Painter was the other programs. Now, I haven't followed with Corel, I'm not gonna look it up. I hope they're still okay. But I know I run into those programs because they had more painting features and or was more affordable than the Adobe products. But with Clip Studio Paint, I bought the very basic manga version. Like I didn't need the multiple page things. I know for very professional comic artists they needed it, but to me, I don't know. I get if you're not making a certain amount, I don't see the need. Anyways, we're not gonna get off on a tangent. Point being was I got the basic version simply because the inking engine of Photoshop wasn't all that great. Um, this is before Wacom was a thing. Only for now that I'm used to not using Wacom or whatever. Um, and that was really what I needed. Clip Studio Paint was just the clean lines. Now over time, with better computers and Adobe expanding out its brush engines, it just made me just leave the program on its own. I never went back to Clip Studio Paint, and part of the reason why is going back yet again to the beginning is Paint Tool Side. To be frank, Paint Tool Side got a bit more difficult to figure out where to find said program to use it. I think currently there is Krita and whatnot. Krita and whatnot, and they're great. I know a lot of people are currently using that paint tool that's in Procreate. Sorry, Procreate. I don't use an iPad. I don't use Apple products at home. I can't afford it. And it just got to me where I was just kind of like, I don't want to keep learning another program. I don't have time to learn another program, which actually is my issue with the current Adobe thing, is that in the last 2 years, every single time Adobe is updating, air quotes updating, they're just adding a bunch of extra mess or moving the UI or changing the button functions, which I'm not going to go into that rant. That'll be another video. Point is, Clip Studio Paint angered quite a few people because they themselves made a very confusing announcement of wanting essentially to go to subscription base, or they will abandon the software essentially, which had happened to a number of painting softwares that I used to mess around with back in the day, back in my DeviantArt years. And that is the issue that I know people are upset about it. It is, I understand why they went to it, because they need to continuously pay their salaries to exist as a company. But there was two parts that several YouTubers at this point in time, and I'll see if I can link them in the video, have mentioned that first version of Clip Studio Paint does what it needs to do, which, similar to me, we basically like the inking engine, and for many they like the multiple pages, and after that, they put some text here and there, and maybe use some of the screen tones. I know of many people who don't, um and that was about it. That at this point there is, and the fact that the software is a small and light software compared to Adobe products, at this point there really is no other reason for anyone to need an update. It's the same issue that was up with Paint Tool Sci. Is what I can see happening to Krita. And then currently Affinity is what's composing itself as being, the Adobe replacement. But to be frank, none of these companies truly will be able to be the Adobe replacement. Just look at recently in a program that's not an illustration program, but a design program, Figma. They just didn't make money, and Adobe ended up purchasing them out because Adobe again have the program. And with the monthly Adobe software, you have multiple programs. And as a working artist, I know that wherever I go, whichever company I am with, they will more than likely use Adobe products. So, as much as it is unfortunate for how expensive Adobe product is, the point is the rest of the paying industry have not adopted any of these programs simply because, just like me as an indie artist, an independent artist who didn't have this extra money, let alone really can use it as a tax deduction, as these bigger companies can do so with these Adobe products. Even I chose not to bother switching out the program because it is quite annoying to learn how to do things in a different program only for said program to be abandoned or suddenly change drastically. So that was really much it. Quick little thought while I work on my Inktober illustration. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Clip Studio Paint issue and why other companies won't be able to follow along with Adobe. Honestly, that's a side caveat, a really quick side caveat. I never like it when one company does something in an industry, becomes the lead in the industry, and then everyone else think that they could start copying the lead in the industry and somehow take over market share. It doesn't work that way. Adobe products or Apple products are their own thing, and things like Google stuff or Android stuff is their own thing. Whenever they're trying to copy each other, it just upsets everybody. Same with Instagram versus TikTok. I am not on TikTok. I am on Instagram. That's another video. And yet, look at the mess that's happening. So I don't get that. So is this the end of Clip Studio Paint? Pretty much, I think so. I'm going to guess that because, again, several artists who have used the program, and me as an artist who didn't bother to continue using the program, the thing that Clip Studio Paint, the original, did is already that. So ironically, it is a perfect example where a program can be abandoned where so long as it has like security updates, and that's about it. After a while, just pay for Adobe. It's unfortunate, but like just pay for Adobe. You know, you can get that tax deducted, or you can work at an office that requires Adobe or a school that has Adobe and just use theirs. It's unfortunate, but yeah. Well, that was that. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Hope you enjoyed my art, and until next time.